everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today for our Little Italy of Los Angeles podcast. And I'm thrilled to announce our latest guest, Victoria Passarella, founder of the Italian-American Leadership Network. Thanks for joining us, Victoria.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've done an awful lot in your career, but we'd love to hear a little bit more about the Italian-American Leadership Network. What is it about? Why did you decide to start this up? And it's nationwide, right? Anyone can join.
Yes. So if you're in New York, if you're in California, anywhere, you can absolutely participate. Everything that we do is digital. So you can attend meetings, programs. But overall, the goal of the Italian-American Leadership Network was to provide a space for Italian-Americans to be able to talk about professional development challenges, to network with each other, and to get direct career education resources. So regardless of if you are a high school student or if you're more advanced in your career, we have all different options for you to get involved with other Italian Americans and to get direct career education. And it's the career education programming that I offered when I worked at Columbia University for years, and really feeling like there was a void, that a lot of Italian Americans weren't aware of these great resources. So wanting to offer those resources directly to my own community.
You not only worked with the Columbia University, you have 2 master's degrees from Columbia University, correct?
Yes, I do.
Tell me about that. What are your 2 degrees from there? It's pretty impressive.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, so my first master's degree from Columbia University is in nonprofit management, and that the other one is in organization and leadership, with a specialization in adult learning programs. So both those educational experiences were the perfect platform for being able to start up something like the Italian American Leadership Network. Originally, I was in the doctorate program of that. So I was in the doctorate program of the Organizational Leadership Master's Degree program. And my research was actually on Italian Americans in leadership, particularly Italian American women in leadership. But I was already there for years. I was also working there full time. And I was like, you know what, after so many years, like I can't see myself doing this for like more and more years, doing more and more research. I really want to get out there and directly help my community, not just do the research about it. So it's something, Italian Americans and career development is something I've been passionate about throughout my career. And I'm really happy now to have like a tangible way to be able to support our community.
Talk to me a little bit about where you grew up. And Dad, I believe, right, is an Italian immigrant?
Sure. So my father is an immigrant from Italy. He came here as a child. He's from Potenza, the Basilicata region of Italy in the south. So I'm 100% Italian, all with that southern Italy. And then he immigrated here to Brooklyn directly, and that's where my parents met. My mother was born in Brooklyn. Her family has the other kind of side of the quintessential Italian American experience of Ellis Island, Little Italy, and then Brooklyn. So very much a New Yorker, but a lot of her side of the family did move to California, actually. But yeah, very kind of immigrant background. My father actually, when he was in Italy, had an outhouse, just a very different way of growing up. So it's been a really interesting journey for me, kind of transitioning into the Columbia University community, which is so different. So I have a lot of nuanced perspectives on life because of my background.
He must have been very proud for a man who grew up in Italy, using an outhouse for his bathroom, to having a daughter born in America who has 2 master's degrees at Columbia University, right? I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean it's very surreal. And when I talk about it, it's like that's kind of the way I process it.
Yeah.
And for me, then going to being in the Columbia environment, because I also worked at Columbia and Barnard. Barnard is like the liberal arts women's school at Columbia University. It's it's just very different than how I grew up. I was, for the most part, almost always the only Italian American in the community. So definitely kind of going from one identity to another identity, depending on where I was, and really seeing that there was kind of like a void. Like there's not a lot of Italian Americans here. A lot of Italian Americans are first generation maybe to go away to college, or first generation to be more of like a white collar type of job. So really wanting to provide those resources direct to the community.
Right. So, but growing up in Brooklyn, did you have a lot of family? Did you know a lot of people? So that was like a super Italian experience, right? And then all of a sudden you pivot and you're
Yeah.
over at an Ivy League university and you're like, wait a minute, where's my people? Right. And I love how you sort of combine everything together to then bring resources to the Italian American community, where you can help them, as you said, with connections and connecting to other people in business and all that, education. I think that's fantastic. Tell me a little more grassroots. What is it that you do? I'm an Italian American. I want to learn more about your network and how you can help me. How does that work?
Sure. So there's kind of like four pillars, I would say, of
Hmm.
this initiative. So, and in no particular order at all. The first pillar is community. So, in our digital world, what does that mean? So, we have a private LinkedIn group. Um, Private meaning before we accept you into the group, we give you kind of some guidelines of what we expect. We want you to be an active member. We don't want you just to be like posting random things. We really want you to be a resource for people. And
Right.
we also have other accounts that are where people get to meet each other on different aspects of social media. And we also put professional development resources directly in that private LinkedIn group. So we announce programming that we have. We connect different people. We are doing private, not private, but like within the group, video workshops for people in the group. So there's that aspect of community, like the digital community. And our second part is students, education. So if you are a high school student, if you're a college student, and you want to start an Italian American club, basically a student organization at your school, we have a campus organizing guide that walks you through everything. So how to do recruitment, how to do marketing, and then we specifically have programs that are a suggestion of what they could do. So how to learn about the history of Southern Italy, the history of immigration, and we also have a list of potential speakers that they could have to bring to their school or over Zoom. So we assist
That's
students with
cool.
that. Yeah, so it's like kind of building that sense of Italian American identity and community at an early age. And then we have our membership. So that's like more of a formal membership. There's a small fee just to kind of contribute to the community. And we have a monthly professional development meeting, Zoom meetings. We all get to know each other and get an actual professional development lesson. So on interviewing, on networking, how to write a resume, those types of topics. So there's like direct career education like you would get in a professional development community. And then the fourth piece that we're launching this spring is our own podcast where we interview Italian Americans specifically in the context of talking about how being Italian American, that identity impacted their career, how they navigated things. Did they feel like a fish out of water? Were they first in their generation to do this particular career? How it impacted them. So we are able to be a resource in all different ways.
That's actually really interesting. When you talk to somebody who is a Gen Zer or a millennial, do they feel like being Italian has affected them as opposed to somebody like myself who's neither of those?
Mhm.
I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think people might be surprised that millennials, Gen Z, are also navigating their Italian American identity because a lot of it comes down to values and expectations at school, at in their future careers. So I've worked in as a career counselor for years with all different populations, ethnic backgrounds, ages. But for so many Italian Americans, and of course it's a generalization, but it's also a pattern, and it's something that our community tends to have challenges with is really having such an emphasis, I mean, I feel is a good thing, on family, wanting to be close to family, prioritizing family, work life balance. So, for a lot of the people that I work with, the conversations are very human. They're very holistic. It's like, I think I might want to do this career, but that would require me to move across the country or work 24 hours a day. And I really prioritize family. How do I navigate that? So
Wow.
there's yeah, so that comes up. Like, you'll be talking to an 18-year-old and they'll be like, I think I want to go into this field, but I want to have kids one day. Like, it's a very different type of thing. And then just like lifestyle things. So just so many of people, students in our community will say like, no, I call my mom every single day, even if I'm away at school, or I call my grandma 3 times a day, or I really want, my parents are in my business a little bit when it comes to what I want to do for a job, or I want to do an internship, but it's unpaid, and my family doesn't understand the value of an unpaid internship because maybe they didn't go away to college. They don't know what an internship is. So they're not our students in our community are navigating a lot. A lot of them are pioneers in their
Hmm.
family, so it's
Do,
being a resource for them.
do you try and match, let's say, people who are looking for career advice or connections? Do you try and match them with other Italian Americans in the field? Let's say somebody wants to be a journalist, right? They're 18 or 19 years old. They call up somebody else who's in your network, let's say myself, who's been a journalist, and say, can I connect you to? Is that sort of what people can look forward to when they join your network? And also somebody like myself who's been out of school and has a career, but there's always, like, for example, I want to learn the language. I really want to learn the language. So there might be somebody in your network that can help me. Is that what it is? Sort of a,
Yeah,
we're helping each other.
yeah. So I'm definitely a connector. It's something I naturally do, have been doing for years. I'm like, okay, let me put some structure around this. So what I love doing, my love, is getting to know everyone involved, messaging with them, emailing with them. Like, I spend hours a day getting to know different people in the community. Um, and the benefit of that is that kind of really hands-on, community-oriented part of our initiative is that then I can connect people. So if there's a student that says, I'm interested in going into journalism, I immediately am like, oh, I have someone for you to talk to. Let me introduce the two of you. So I'm right in there, kind of developing those relationships. And then in terms of like just like skills, like you were saying, like learning the language, there was a perfect example of someone who was interested in getting dual citizenship, and I knew a bunch of people who had gone through that process. It's kind of a labor intensive process, and we're able to connect them, and now I don't know, they network with each other. And so it's not necessarily just career related. It could be, I want to work on my LinkedIn profile. I want to learn how to start a podcast. I want to learn how to work on personal branding. It's really just a community for people to be really down to earth, not judge each other. People can say like, I have no idea what I'm doing, because it's a very family oriented community. It's not a place where you have to be like overly formal. It's like really kind of combining that sense of family that Italian Americans have, and kind of being open and emotional, and with the professional development. And I think that's what makes us unique, and I think that's why people have a lot of fun in the organization, because
Mm.
the reality is like we're all working, we're all doing stuff. It's a huge part of our life, but not having to make that like cold and rigid, instead kind of bringing that fun family feeling to professional development.
Here's a funny one. Do you do matchmaking too? I mean, could you imagine somebody going, I want to date somebody, but I want to date somebody Italian? I was thinking about that earlier, but what do you think?
I,
Yes?
it's so funny. I swear I did not plan on you asking that question.
No, no.
It's so funny that you
Uh-oh.
say that. So in February, um, so we're kicking off our podcast in the spring, but we have guests planned. One of our upcoming guests, her name is Rachel Russo, and she is an Italian American, and she's an Italian American matchmaker.
Okay.
So
That's amazing. I'm gonna have her on my show. So there you go.
she's a
You've got to connect me with her. How
mhm.
amazing is that? Because I know somebody, let's just, they're over 40, right? They got a divorce or sort of whatever. They want to date, but they're like, you know what? I'm not dating anybody anymore unless they're of Italian heritage, because the person she was married to totally didn't understand her and was always saying stuff like, oh my God, you're emotional, you're this. And she's like, that's it. Next guy has got to be an Italian. And I thought about that as we were talking. I thought, I wonder if you connect people too. So I love this. Oh my
Yeah, and
gosh.
It's so funny that you say that because I am also divorced. I was married very briefly. I'm still friends with my ex, but we were from different cultures. It wasn't going to work out. We were fine as friends, but in a marriage, our expectations and our values are just very different. Not to
Yeah.
say that for everyone, but it was a challenge. Um, and that is actually why I heard Rachel Russo on another podcast, and I was like, I want to reach out to her. Like, she's so interesting. So now it's actually a perfect way of putting the context of the Italian American Leadership Network. So I'm not going to be talking to her about, for example, how to date, but we're going to be talking more about how do Italian Americans navigate in relationships, work-life balance, expectations, parenting. How do we? What's our unique thing? How does that impact our jobs and things like that? So I'll be happy to introduce you to her.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because I told you I would love to join your network because I just think the more of us, the better, right? We're all out there helping each other. So interesting. Tell me what you like to do. You live in Brooklyn, you said, right?
I'm originally from Brooklyn. Now I'm about half hour, especially because of COVID. I'm a half hour from Manhattan, in Nassau County on Long Island, which is I'm literally like right on the border of Queens. So all of the New York metro area.
Hmm. And you live
Yeah.
with your parents? Do you live with your parents?
No, I live like 5 minutes away. So
I
very,
know. Right, where family is everything. But you've got such an interesting and unique balance, right? You've got your mom is Italian American, right? But your dad was born there. You're highly educated in an Ivy League school. So you sort of have all of the areas that you can connect, those who feel like they don't have any connections. And you are someone who does have connections and you've got your hands sort of in everything. So anybody can join from anywhere. You can be in Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, wherever. And frankly, even Italy, right? You're
yes,
going to
we
have
do. Yes. Hmm.
right, you have planned meetings you're going to have on Zoom, and eventually someday, perhaps you're going to have meetings where we could do it in person again, which would be lovely. Um, but before I let you go, I wanted to talk a little bit about your cousin. You have a very well-known cousin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah. So my cousin is the actor John Turturro, and he is a huge inspiration for me. And in a way, having, with the work that I do, a huge inspiration directly with that because of the fact that he has a similar background that I do. We're both from the New York metro area, both kind of pioneers in our family doing new things. Um, Undergrad, I went to the State University of New York at New Paltz. That's where he went undergrad. So really being able to have a role model meant a lot. Kind of a
Hmm.
trailblazer, someone who went away to school. What did they do? And then for grad school, he went to acting school at Yale for grad school. So to see someone kind of make those jumps, navigate different things, and then when he became successful, using that platform that he had to take on roles that were artistic, interesting, were nuanced, were not kind of the typical Italian American role, and also doing but projects like Passione, which is a movie that he did about Italy and about the arts in Italy. So just seeing a role model jump through all these hoops of education, navigate uncharted things for many Italian Americans to then give back to the community. And for myself, like I was a kid on the set of like Do the Right Thing in Brooklyn, and it was, he was starting out, so you didn't know what the future was going to be. So just seeing people do these cool things within their own community, telling their stories in a really authentic way, um, made a big impact on me. So I know what it's like to have a role model and how that influences them, what you could take to the next level. So I'm very proud that I have him as part of my family.
That's connection number two. Maybe he'll come on our podcast someday. We'd love to have him. He's amazing. We love him.
Thank you.
Well, tell people how they can get in touch with you, how they can join, because I know it's ridiculously reasonable. It's almost like anybody can afford to join this. How can they find you at the Italian American Leadership Network?
Yes, we made it affordable very intentionally. So it's $5 a month, or if you want to pay all upfront, is $50 for the
Wow.
year. And again, we want to be open for everyone. So if you just go to ItalianAmericanLeadership.com, all the information's right there. Our Instagram is Italian American Leadership. You can also find me on Instagram at I am Victoria Passarella. We're on pretty much every single platform. And if you want to, our podcast is starting on YouTube. So if you want to check that out, it's also Italian American Leadership on YouTube. And we're all podcasts are. So you could pretty much find us anywhere that you are, wherever you kind of hang out.
And I just love the whole connection aspect because a lot of people have ideas. A lot of people have a lot of talent and they really don't know where to go if they don't have a connection. And this is just brilliant. So thank you so much, Victoria, for doing this. I appreciate it. Let's make sure to stay in touch. I want to join. I know that you sent me an email, so I have to get on that myself. So it's just a lot that we can all get out of something like this. So Victoria Passarella, Italian American Leadership Network. Thanks so much for joining us. And everybody, thanks for joining us for the Little Italy of Los Angeles podcast. You can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, IGTV, and anywhere also that you get your audio podcast, you'll find us. So I appreciate you all joining us. I'm your host, Deborah Zara Kobylt, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.